Hey guys, Montel here, and welcome to this edition of Free Thinking with Montel. This program is set up so that we invite you to challenge the traditional ways of thinking and your traditional ways and approach to known facts with a new mindset. Today, we explore the world of thought with an impressive powerhouse in the domain of leadership and motivation. He doesn't just inspire, he ignites a fire within you to make you move. Using an unconventional style, he'll guide us as we unravel the intricate connection between civilization and democracy, debunking misconceptions, alleviating worries, and equipping us with a fresh viewpoint to understand our social story. Franck, Zanu, welcome, and thank you so much for being a part of Free Thinking with Montel, sir.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Montel.
Absolutely. Why don't you start from the beginning with us, sir? Let's go back a little bit and share your journey with us. Where are you from? How'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Let's give us some information about yourself.
Yes, I was originally born in the tiny former French colony called Benin Republic. And anybody who have watched the warrior woman king, yes, it was shot in my father's tribe, and that is Benin Republic. However, when I was 5, because of the junta in my country, it descended into a Marxist socialist country, and everybody was fleeing. My parents moved to neighboring country, Ghana. And Ghana was colonized by the English, so I acquired more English education. And I went to school in Ghana until I turned 14. And then I was able to teach myself how to shoot photos and write stories. And luckily, I landed what is called a stringer with the Washington Times photo agency. And that took me to many countries, including South Korea, where I lived for 2 years, Japan for 4 years, China, Malaysia, and my last station was Bulgaria. But at that time, I have not attended college, so I was looking for ways to, attend college. And luckily for me, I got the AELS, which is Academic Excellence and Leadership Scholarship, full scholarship to attend the University of Bridgeport in the United States. And so my window to this country remained Bridgeport, Connecticut. I went to UB. I was the president of the student body. And when I graduated, I remained in Bridgeport and continued to work for corporate. And then I quit and started my own nonprofit called the Heroes Leadership, where I take the high school students to Africa every summer, where we help build schools in Benin Republic. And I did that until 2013. 2015, I moved to Kenya, and then I'm back in the United States, and I still live in Bridgeport.
And you are now a U.S. citizen, correct?
Yes, a happy U.S. citizen.
Which gives you, I think, an interesting perspective on taking a look at American democracy and our part in its formation. Could you explain the historical context of culture influencing political structures?
Very good. I like the way you put the question. Most of the time, people think that the political system is far more important than the cultural foundation, because members of the political parties talk more about the political system than they talk about culture. So we start to get to lean towards that. People activate their voting power, always looking for my best candidate to vote. So fine, democracy, if you define it, simply says a government by the people, of the people, for the people. Which simply means that the people have the power if the majority picks a leader. And so that is what the American democracy is known and has been, and so also are many countries.
That's what American. I'm not going to differ with what you say. That's what America is supposed to be founded on. But as we see very clearly in multiple of our last few elections, the populace that had the more populist vote selected a candidate that ended up losing, or as we see right now today. I mean, we just recently watched the Supreme Court try to differentiate between, really, I think, the public's rights, the state's rights, and the national rights of individuals, putting the individual over the rights that were even given to them in the Constitution, trying to find places in the Constitution to find loopholes. So I do understand what you're saying. In its pure form, that's what democracy should be.
Yes.
The way it is exercised isn't necessarily the way the pure form was written.
That's correct. Now, I don't have much credibility to be able to go into discussing the intricacies of how American democracy is being practiced. However, I stick to what the definition has been and
Sure.
how the country has utilized that definition of democracy, which I call the process. And so, recently, in a very short time, you would hear very often people with very influential and big credentials saying that our democracy is in jeopardy and that our democracy is at risk and somebody is a threat to our democracy. And that began to worry me because I said, by definition and by the process, no, the American democracy will never be in jeopardy if you continue to accept the process. I'm talking about
But
the
that
original process.
again, then you're also talking about it from a strictly, let's say, a constitutional way, the way the
That's correct.
Constitution was written. But
That's correct.
unfortunately, even though we have these people who claim to be constitutionalists, who want to look back at the way the Constitution was written in particular form,
Yes,
they are also now those who are trying their best to disrupt the writing of the Constitution by
that's
trying
correct.
to say that current day interpretation is different than what the interpretation was when it was written. So therefore, they have a right to interpret it some different way. And I don't, I think that's going to be something that's going to come. The chicken's going to come home to roost here in America in the next, two
Well, but
election cycles.
we have to ask the question, no matter what attempt they are making, will they still use the process of democracy to do it? Which means, for example, if it's a Supreme Court, are they going to rely on a majority decision? If it is for the populace, are they going to rely on majority? That's what I'm trying to say. That
Sure.
whatever attempt they are going to make, are they going to use what is the process of democracy? Which means they are going to ask either the Supreme Court or ask the people, where the majority's choice will become what holds the day. If that is the case, then that is what I mean by democracy itself will never be in jeopardy. Let me give you an example. If you put candidate A, who says I'm the devil, and you put candidate B, who says I'm the angel, and you ask the people to pick, and the majority picks candidate A, knowing very well he said he's the devil. Well, you have not destroyed democracy. Even if he's a dictator, he tells you he's a dictator, and they still use majority to vote him, you still have a democracy.
But when we see things like the, you know, sorry, I just lost the term. Hold on a second, Keith. The electoral votes that take place through electoral Congress. I mean, we saw back years ago where a candidate received majority number of votes, but because the electoral college gave them more electorates, another candidate won the presidency. That is absolutely in contrary of democracy, and it's the
Well,
same thing that's going to happen right now. If in
but
fact,
has that not been the process since the founding, the electoral
well,
college?
it has, but it has normally since the founding, the majority vote almost ran hand in hand with the electoral college. And then we have an instance that takes place. It was between Gore and Bush, where we knew for a fact that it flipped. The populist vote did not earn Gore the seat as the president. It gave it to Bush because he got the electoral votes. We
So
didn't go to,
actually,
huh?
uh, it was the first election that was decided in the Supreme Court, and he got 5-4 because Florida became the contentious field where you had the pregnant ballot, the miscarriage ballot, half ballot. So when they went twice for the recount, and they couldn't resolve the issue, the Supreme Court then decided that they would vote, and then he got a 5-4 Supreme Court vote for George Bush to become president in 2000.
Right, but that was now again based on. Now you take a look at what's going on right now in the Supreme Court today. Supreme Court is looking over an issue of what it states clearly in our Constitution, and the Constitution is what drives the democracy. The democracy is what functions under a constitution. And our constitution states unequivocally that a person who is involved in an insurrection or involved in harboring those who are involved in insurrections cannot run for office. But we have a Supreme Court that, because of the picks of a individual president, has skewed the court in its Democratic, I would say, in its numbers, so that now you have a majority that is in the Supreme Court that are really in favor of one party over the other. And some might say that 20 years from now, there would be reason that even former President Obama could go back to the Supreme Court and seek justice in the fact that Congress and Senate thwarted him and didn't give him his constitutional right as a president to select a jurist for the bench. Therefore, the court may be, or they could find an argument that our current court is illegitimate. And if it's illegitimate, then therefore it's not following in the suit of democracy. So you could literally have an argument that, of course, it's going to be moot because, the fact that
Well, you
Obama.
have some good points there. You have some good points, but let me go back to what you said about insurrection.
Okay.
Now, the word has a definition. Now, again, the action has to be tested in court and in public to see, does this match insurrection. So simply saying that the Constitution said that if a person participates in insurrection, he cannot run for office.
There
The
has
question,
been multiple courts who have found Donald Trump guilty of insurrection. Already, courts have found that and stated that in their decisions that yes, he did incite insurrection. So
okay, are you
now
talking about state courts or Supreme Court?
I'm talking about state courts, and state courts are
Okay,
just as
state
valid
court,
as huh?
states are autonomous in the United States of America. One state can say, our Supreme Court finds him guilty, and they have to take the course and do what they have to do. Now, we are now talking about the Supreme Court, which we agreed should be in place to decide and referee issues like this as yet. So I cannot say that
Only
because
if the
one
Supreme
state
Court.
found him guilty, therefore it should be a blanket for the entire country. We
Well,
have not seen
how
that
about
yet.
the fact that if you can argue and you could find argument in the fact that we do not have a legitimate Supreme Court right this minute, that argument
I,
could be raised, could be
no,
raised, huh?
that would be very interesting to say we don't have a legitimate Supreme Court. You have to explain to me what you
And
mean
what
by
I mean by that is the
John.
fact that the Supreme Court that exists today exists the way it is only because the Senate, Mitch McConnell, and Congress refused to allow President Obama to have his constitutionally mandated right to select a jurist. They stopped that, waited till Trump got in office, then Trump then selected jurists. Therefore, I would say that there could be a legitimate constitutional argument on the fact that this court is not legitimate because they did not give Obama a chance to select his jurist, and therefore the whole Supreme Court would be a different Supreme Court had he been allowed to do so. So
Okay,
therefore, and again, it's not going to happen today. But
it's
I
a
will
question
say,
of a question of views. I do not have the credibility. I'm not a constitutional scholar or lawyer. And so there are certain things that I don't have the credibility to
gotcha.
be able to share my opinions.
Sure.
And so the illegitimacy of the court or not, I do not think I have read any book outside the court or outside the two political systems that has clearly stated that, no, we have an illegitimate Supreme Court. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
Congress have not had a session to discuss that yet. So I don't like sharing opinion on subjects where I have no credibility.
gotcha.
So I will leave that.
All right.
However,
You
the
leave
thing
that,
I want to talk about today,
and you're absolutely right because that question has not been put before the court. So
correct.
therefore, until it is, you have to stand by the thought that this court is legitimate, and therefore, moving forward, all decisions that they make, even though we can understand that they are biased decisions. See, I mean, it's kind of like the cart before the horse that
Yes,
constantly keeps coming up
that's
that has
correct.
not been answered yet.
That's
Therefore,
correct.
it makes it pulls into question the entire idea as to whether or not it is culture or constitution that.
Well, what I would say is this, Montel,
Mhm,
people came before culture
right.
because out of the people, culture grew. And the people then, of course, gave birth to whatever is their political system. My concern today in America, as a happy American citizen, proud of this country because it's been the best country, has given me all that I thought I needed when I came here. It has not failed its promise to me. It's what I want to discuss, which is that we should begin to talk about the erosion of the culture. You see, in different countries, USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, they tried it. Lenin, Stalin, Brezhnev. What they went for is found in George Orwell's 1984 or The Animal Farm. They never went for the political system. And he never mentioned, they go for the culture. And that is what we should be scared of right now. But when I hear people with credentials, ex-first ladies, going on television to say, I don't sleep at night, I'm terrified, our democracy is at risk, I say this is a diversion. Because they want people to begin to think that the democracy, the political system, is far more important than the culture. And when they keep thinking about it, then you'll activate your power to say, I'll vote in the next election. Meanwhile, the culture is eroding. America didn't bring people into this country because of the political system. People, the people who came from Europe, from the UK, the Ozzy Osbournes on the Black Sabbath, the Eric Claptons, the John Lennon and the Beatles, and the wagging tongue Rolling Stones. These eccentric personalities who were attracted to this country, they came from democratic countries. What attracted them to this country is the culture of America. That is what people celebrate around the world. You go to Southeast Asia, you go to
wait, hold on a second, because it's very interesting when you express it this way, because then one must define what you are. Let's back up for a second. Why don't you tell me what you think the culture of America is? What is it? Because if you really want to discuss the culture of America, then you're talking about a country that was founded on racism and hate and murder and rape. So is that the culture of America? And that's the culture of America that we should try to sustain? Because let's go back in time.
No, not at all. Huh? No, not at all. Because what the things you have mentioned, yes, they are horrible. They are inhumane. And they become a stain on the sleeve of any country. But the three things you have mentioned, you will not go to any country today that has a power, the industrial countries, and not find those three things. Even in my own country, slavery, oppression, murder took place and takes place every day. If you remember the barbaric gang of slave buyers and sellers in Europe, yes, the whole of Northern Europe is full of slaves. The reason you don't know about it or you don't see it is because they have the same skin color. It just blended after the event. You go to Nigeria, the Igbos had the Osu population, a large population of Igbos buying Igbos into slavery and keeping them. My own father's tribe bought the entire of our region, the same color of people. And it has happened in the Ottoman Empire, in the Middle East, in Asia. The Japanese bought Koreans as slaves.
Okay.
So I am not using that to define American culture. While every country who has risen up to be an industrial country and has not stepped on any toes, there is none like that. I am talking about the eccentricity of this country.
Okay, so what is the essence of American culture that you're telling me is the definition? What do you believe it is?
What I believe is that this is the only country, because I've lived in many countries, this is the only country where individuals who are attracted here knows that America gives you this opportunity to push the envelope. And we have seen it. Personalities who couldn't have pushed the envelope in their own country. Albert Einstein, the Elon Musk, everyone who moved here, Ozzy Osbourne, they couldn't have pushed the envelope in their own cultures. Japanese and Chinese and Germans and Jews and Italians, everybody knows this is the youngest, eccentric and perplexing culture that allowed the individual to move here and push the envelope, go inside your potential, unleash it. And the Americans always give you room for that. That is a culture. That is what attracted me. I have lived in Japan for 4 years. I couldn't have attempted or even dream of asking for citizenship. I lived in Korea for 2 years. I couldn't have dreamt of asking for citizenship. I went to UK and lived there for 2 years for high school. I couldn't have dreamt of asking for citizenship. When I came to this country and went to school, by the time I was out of college, the way American professors, red, black, white, the way they treated me as a student, couldn't have found it anywhere else. The way they pushed me to say, this is the place you can unleash all your potential, I couldn't have found it anywhere. And this is what attracted all the eccentric personalities from around the world. If you go to Southeast Asia, the kids who are flying American flag and waiting to come to this country, and you ask them, young or old, what is the American political system? I bet you 90% won't tell you what it is. But everybody knows about American culture, where every Southeast Asian child wants to be Elizabeth Taylor, and every African kid wants to be Muhammad Ali. This is the only country. I'll tell you a story people have not thought about. They're the most reclusive nation on earth, North Korea, that changed the entire culture through the Chuje, the National Socialist philosophy of North Korea. Kim Jong-il's son, who is now president, went to school, a private school in Switzerland. Now, you would think, coming from a culture like North Korea, clean, organized, disciplined, that he may be attracted to images of dictators like Xi Jinping or other people. No, he was attracted to the image of the most bizarre, eccentric personality of America, Dennis Rodman, and plastered his room. He was not in love with Dennis as a person. He was in love with American culture. Because this is the only culture that gives birth to eccentrics like Dennis Rodman and William Montel Williams. This is the culture that gives birth to Howard Stern and Amos and Rush Limbaugh, and they all exist in the same port. This is the only culture that gives birth to the Janis Joplin and the Bob Dylans and everybody in between and far away from each other. This is the only country that does that. So the
You
people
know,
who
but I tell you something. It's very interesting. It depends on what lens you look at it from, because pop culture isn't necessarily American culture. You go to places like deep down in Mississippi, and you'll find that these opportunities that you think you don't have there. You may think you have them there. You may be misguided to believe that you can get that chance to step up. You don't. Go down to Mississippi tomorrow and try with your accent to open a business in Mississippi and see how long your business stays there. Go
Very
down
good. Very good point.
Go
And
down.
I want to address that.
Yeah.
I want to address that. Now, what you have said is true. I have said to my friends, this is the only place where I find it to be very exciting and never boring, right? And so you look at the abrasive East Coast citizens as compared to the laid-back societies of the South, and then the fluid, nonchalant West Coast, and then compared to the militant Midwest. Yes. So that is the beauty again of this country. I know what you said is true, but then America has a room somewhere for you to say, well, you will not be accepted in Mississippi, but there is a place again in the same country. However, this same accent, if I were in Japan, it will not be accepted in any corner anyway. If I was in China, it will not have I will not have a room in any corner anyway. If I was in South Korea, it would be the same thing.
Okay. All right. Well, tell me what tools can public utilize to affect political structural change?
No, I don't think we need a political structure change. I am warning that we must begin to look. You see, what is interesting is something we say in Africa. Every day for the last 2 or 4 years, I began to hear these parents every day, people going on television saying, oh, think about the democracy, while the culture is eroding right here. Chairman Mao is known for cultural revolution, not political revolution. Those who tried the political revolution, the Fidel Castro's, J.J. Rawlings of Ghana, Machel Mozambique, Samora of Mozambique, and all the way to Savimbi of Angola, they failed because they went for the political. They didn't go for the culture. But societies like China, where Chairman Mao went for the culture, Russia went for the culture, and other countries went for the culture, they changed the people. And we got to be careful to lose what we have in this country, which is, like I said, the foundation of this country and its political system was built on the culture of America.
When
So
you
the
when
tools
you
are one.
when you take a look at what's going on around America right now, there are politicians who are trying their best to change the culture of America by demanding that the borders be blocked, be closed to anybody, and especially anybody coming from, let's quote a former president, shithole countries, which he labeled anybody of color, but anybody not of color was not a member of a shithole country. So let's remember that there is a movement afoot right now to stop what has always been this American.
When I came to this country in 1994 as a student, when I came to this country in 1994 as a student on a J1 visa, I knew it was explicit to me that if I want to remain in the country, there are processes to follow. Now, I'll tell you one thing that is not true at all about the border. The border is not part of American culture. In fact, opening the border and throwing it open for any Tom, Dick, and Harry from any country unvetted properly to enter the country is actually against American culture. America is the only place where you go to people's homes and they say, you got to knock, beware of the dog, beware of this, you don't step on my grass. Now, what I understand is this: if what you are saying is true, then let's look at countries, South Sudan, Somalia, Burundi, that are burning with fire, with people under oppression. Then close the embassies abroad and tell the ambassadors, hey, suspend the visas for now so people who are suffering can come into America. No, this happened to be a land neighbor. So that is why
But at
we are looking.
at the exact same time, and I'm not arguing with you with this. I'm just saying at the exact same time, we will close the border because we want to ensure that certain groups of people don't get in, but we will maintain the border and the right for you to buy a person's citizenship in the United States. Let's look directly at what happened with former President Trump. His wife, he put $1 million or something like close to that into a business under her name, which allowed her to bring her parents in. So again,
Okay. And I keep
culturally,
saying there are certain
there are
topics.
loopholes, and culturally, when we say there's a difference between culture, and I think there's a difference between the way things are administered. And no, America's never been a place that, even though we claim to bring us your huddled masses, we've never wanted our huddled masses. We've been a place, and let's go back to World War II and show you, as much as we never discuss what took place in what we call the Holocaust. America was as complicit in that as Germany was in some ways. If you look at the history, we knew from day one where those train tracks led in Europe. Did we bomb them? No. Did we
Okay.
shut down that?
I
No.
keep repeating, and you
Okay.
must understand. I
Sure.
keep repeating. I know. I mean, I've been watching you since I came to
Sure.
1994, and you still look the same.
Sure. I understand.
You were massive back then with the Ricky Lakes and the Jerry Springers and everything. Now you may have more experience, more knowledge, and more access to information. There are
Sure.
topics that I have no credibility whatsoever to open my mouth to even have an opinion about. For example, I would never in my life in America have access to knowing how Donald Trump's wife got citizenship. No, so I cannot even say yes or no to that. It's absolutely not within my credibility. The Second World War. I'm not a scholar on the Second World War, so those topics I cannot talk about them. I've been confronted with them in so many forums when I go to speak, and I always say to people, I speak on things that I have personal knowledge
Gotcha.
and some credibility to speak about. But what I keep saying, what I'm saying about the border, it is not true at all. That was never the case in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. No, America secured its border just like any country. Okay, Russia, Japan, China, South Korea, all these countries, you cannot just walk into the country. It is never done by any country. What is going on is scary, and we must talk about it. It is not humanitarian by opening the border on one side of the country, and you're not closing your embassy so everybody can jump in. Number two, America has remained the country that has the 51,000 visa lottery from Africa, from Asia, from South America, Central America. There was no discrimination. Majority of Africans that I know personally who live in Bridgeport came here on the visa lottery. Majority of Haitians whom I know personally in Bridgeport came here by winning the visa lottery or the lottery visa, whichever it is. America put that in place for how many decades now? 51,000 per year. Many countries in Europe have not done that. Many countries in Asia have not done that. So America is not pushing some people out of this country and favoring others. No, this is a talking point some people put in place recently just to fool people. I'm against a porous border to the country that I went through the process to become a legal, valuable citizen of my community. Now, let me tell you something. In my country, in Venezuela, in Honduras, in Guatemala, if you raise your middle finger to a police, you shoot you dead in the streets. And if your mother complained, they might shoot her too. But those people came into this country and had a guts to attack an American police officer in broad daylight. It's not possible.
But
Something
but
is just
remember, not only are those people coming across the border attacking police officers in broad daylight, those people who live here do the same. But
well.
I'm not going to argue with you. Okay, let's.
Yeah, if I pay taxes to my police and I get angry with them in my country where I'm paying taxes and they have sworn to serve me, I can get into altercation with them. If I'm having an altercation with my mother in my house and you came in as a visitor and think because I have altercation with my mother, you can do so and call her names. No, it's not acceptable. It's not right. It's culturally dangerous, wrong, and must be condemned. You can come while you are an illegal immigrant in a host country that is trying hard to keep. There is no country I know on earth where people will break the borders, not Russia, not China, not North Korea, not even Germany, and you'll be given all the benefits, credit cards in your pocket, hotels to sleep in, and you turn around and attack the people? We've become too busy, Montel, looking at our flashy dresses and cars and homes and whatever we see we have, that we are letting the things that held this country together go away, and I'm scared. In a very short time, we have more drag queens than we have firefighters. Like they said in 1984, they go into schools with things I've never seen. Now, I am worried about how short a time the whole tide changed. That is what is bothering me. Now, I know this forum, you and I, it's not enough for me to really explain many things to you. You will understand and said, wow, I never thought about it that way. But I saw things, Montel, and because you said something in the beginning that is truly right, because I come from outside, I am standing far away from the mirror, so I see very clear than those who are consumed by emotion are too close to the mirror. But I pray, I have lived at different places, not just visited. I worked there in Japan, in South Korea. So I have something to compare to. This is the only country, and I won't even say so for my own country, Benin Republic, where I have been treated by black, white, Asian, you name it. Where a policeman have shown me for the first time that I'm a human being when they stop me. Not in my country. Whether you're right or wrong, they'll drag you until you pay something, or they can kill you. Not in Haiti, not in Jamaica.
Okay. All right. Well, how can we evolve, into active members of our democracy?
No,
And really, I mean, what you do, you run a program where you try to teach young people democratic principles. What are those principles that you're trying to teach them?
I don't talk about democratic principles with children. I think children should be left to go inside themselves, unleash their creativity and potential, and not be made angry. Not be made angry, because once a child becomes angry about things, he cannot even think because he doesn't have that matured critical and analytical thinking skills to be able to even decipher and analyze. The kid becomes angry. You have created a man who is going to destroy himself for the rest of his life. And that's what we are doing. We are creating by the things we say in our own living rooms in America, especially as a black man. I'm more passionate and concerned about the inner cities of black kids, what they hear in their living rooms makes them angry. And so what I teach the kids, or what I mentor my kids, is the understanding of what is called civic duty. Civic duty is what I try to explain to them. You don't have to belong to any particular political group to know that the community in which you are born is the first place you leave your legacy. Ask yourself every day, what do I do every day so that if I'm not here, there will be remnants of my valuable contributions to this community? Volunteer spirit, participation in school programs, being able to look left and right before you make decisions under peer pressure. Those things. What do you do in your community? Because a community, a place is only as good as the people who live in it. And so for my kids, I'm telling them to look into coming to the city council and listen to how arguments are held and debates are formed, not necessarily telling them that this one party is better than the other. I don't have the credibility to tell the kid which party to go to. I have lived in America under a Democratic president, under a Republican president, a Democratic president, a Republican president, and everything I did always succeeded. I've always tried to give my best to Bridgeport. Right now, as we speak, I've been nominated, appointed by the mayor as a commissioner of fair rent and fair housing. It's a privilege for me to be able to give back something. And that's what I tell my kids. Find something. As long as you're engaged in something that is useful and valuable to your community, the adult in the community would exalt your name. You feel better. You go to school, find something to do. I'm trying to move them away from thinking about somebody telling you that this individual, if he becomes president, is going to make your life miserable. The kid is angry already. Each time he or she steps out and see people who look like the person you just accused, he has an enemy in front of him. And we have to shield our kids from that.
You were talking about there seems to be a cultural shift here in America. Let's talk about identify what that cultural shift is here in American society.
And when you say cultural shift, I mean the change that is going on?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the first time in the last 100 years where a large group of people, for example, since I was born, I have never met a teacher, a co-worker, a colleague, landlord, neighbor who was born in 18 something. My grandfather was born in 19 something. My father was born in 19 something. I was born in 19 something. This is the first time, the last 100 years, that a large population of people born in 19 something and now living side by side, working side by side with people born in 2000, the last 24 years. They don't have any frame of reference. You and I can talk about what politics, clothing, music, literature meant in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s. We have seen all that. So each time we think and we talk, we have a frame of reference. A typewriter is not just a machine that puts prints on paper. When I see it, it gives me a whole experience of life, memories of things that were done through this machine. When I see a gramophone or a record player, it's not just a music machine to me. It's memories of what it meant in those days. I remember a birthday party. This population I'm talking about do not have any frame of reference. Their clothing have not changed since they were born. December 31st, the year 2000, Y2K, till now. They are 24 years old. I met one that has 2 children already, and they are living side by side with people born in 19 something. In my days, when I hear somebody born in 18 something, then the teacher is talking about a historical figure. We must understand we have a huge problem. How we, the old dinosaurs, are shifting slowly for these new generation, or not just generation, new century. We call them millennials, Generation Z, to take over. Their way of thinking, doing things, understanding things with no frame of reference is going to be different from us. So the tension you see in America is not something so peculiar. It's because of the movement, and it's going to continue. So we have to be aware of that. Language is changing because of these people. Many things you and I would never have considered is changing because of these people. And so we got to be aware of that and see the language we use and see how we can live side by side. However, things are going too fast. And I'm saying, but when you say certain things, they consider you to be a conservative, and which is bad. But no, that's not true. I come from Africa, I've lived in Asia. There are conservative views that I still hold, yes, that I'm not supposed to make women pregnant all over the place and walk away from them to suffer. I'm not supposed to, not have good ethics at work. I'm not supposed to blow up in violence because I had a simple disagreement with someone. I'm not supposed to steal from the place where I work. I'm not supposed to dodge taxes. All these things, they are conservative values. But when they say you're conservative, oh, you're a bad person, and we have to change that. And so the cultural shift, I say, is one because of the new century of people coming in, and the old dinosaurs like us who are soon going to be gone. That change is going to be painful, it's going to be harsh, and it's going to be dark. But we must recognize it, and so that our anger will subside.
And how are we going to keep this from impacting what we call democracy today? Because, as you know, I mean, there was a recent question asked of some Generation Xers, and some were saying that they didn't see how having a dictator would be that bad. There was probably, I think, a 25% answer: dictatorship wouldn't be bad, or communism wouldn't be bad.
Yes,
And
they are right.
yeah,
They are right because, like I said, they don't have a frame of reference. You have lived in a time when you saw Castro. You live in a time when you saw Brezhnev. You live in a time when you saw Venezuela. You saw Yugoslavia. You saw countries that went. My own country, my parents ran away because my country descended into the most brazen Marxist socialist country in West Africa, Benin Republic, under a young colonel known as Mathieu Kérékou, 17 years. He stood up one day by himself, walked into the radio station, and these were his words: "I quit. This system does not work." Now, here is something that was interesting during that time. The people of Benin were acting the same way under the Marxist regime. Loose affiliation of tribal functions and customs and traditions were still going, and it held the people together. Okay? The people of Russia, the same thing. The people of China were held together, while Chairman Mao did not go for, he went for the culture and changed Chinese people. So no, I won't talk about how we can protect the democratic system. I'll talk about we should watch how we are eroding the culture. Once it's gone,
okay.
automatically you don't have anything left. And until they taste it, and they have never lived in a world where they have even read about a detector, what it means. We're not teaching it in the schools. So of course they will have, whenever you say don't look over the wall, the fence, that is when the child wants to look over the fence. So maybe they're thinking, this is all I have known. Maybe a detector. So it's just a fantasy. How do we teach them? How do we show them movies? And how, they will never get it because they have to taste it.
So, but again, so then how does this cultural shift allow for the maintenance of a democratic society?
No, the cultural shift, if we allow it to shift, then we have to decide.
It's already shifting. So let's not say if we allow it to, it's already shifting. We
Oh
need to
yes, when we
understand
get to that bridge, we're gonna cross it. It will change something. Yes, most definitely. I don't know what it is yet. I don't know if it's going to be better than what we have. I don't know. But I'm concerned because of the I don't know. Because the one I know has worked and people have flee countries. I used to joke to say America is the only country that goes into your country, wages an unholy war, goes back home. The next day they go back, they get a red carpet. Other countries will go to your country and wage a holy war. And the next time they come back, the people are waving American flag. The cultural shift is going to happen. But if we are aware of it, Montel, and we guide it properly to shift and not use anger by pointing fingers at people because they don't belong to your political party, because news media has succeeded in using names to brand people what they want, then of course it's going to go bad. But if we understand that the shift must happen
But
and we guide it,
Frank, when you look at American society right now, though some might say that we are a country torn apart, I don't really believe that, because I think that there's a fringe element of our country that is torn apart. I think, if you look at about 30% of its constituents, they are battling each other and will fight until their last breath. But the other 70% is in the middle. They're just waiting for somebody else to tell them what to do. I
yeah,
really believe that. I don't think we have as many leaders as we have followers, and those followers are willing to follow anything.
okay.
So we're at a point right now, and it's going to get closer and closer to a precipice if we allow it to happen this way. How do we get the cultural attitudes to accept the fact that the way we are living right now may not continue unless we get more support for the established constitutional norms, the established democratic society that we've run? If we don't try to shore it up, it's going to fall down.
And that's what I keep saying. The established norms, the established constitutional norms, the democratic norms you keep mentioning are not going to hold water if you allow the culture to erode with anger and not the understanding that it is meant to erode, shift. Let me use your word. So if you know that it is meant to shift, we all would guide the ship to shift the way it's supposed to go. Then you can guarantee that the democratic and constitutional norms may hold water. If we think that the shift is caused by somebody and we engage in this finger pointing and name calling and the vitriol and the toxic community we are creating, environment we are creating, then we're going to get a bunch of very angry people who will not understand why the shift is happening. The shift was meant to happen. It can never hold the same way forever. Impossible. With a global shift and changes in politics and lifestyles and all that and technology, there's no way we would expect that the American culture as we know it should stand still. It would shift. It's normal. And we should tell young people to look at it that way. And that is the only way, Montel, we bet on protecting what you're calling the democratic norms and the constitutional norms. I am concerned about how we should attend to the shift. If we look at it as a negative thing, we're doomed. We should look at it as something whose time has come.
So embrace the shift and figure out what the next generation will do for its.
Embrace is a very loaded word. Embrace means become complacent or don't. No, no, no. Understanding is far more important than anything. Knowing it is far more important than anything. How do we start making people to start to rethink? That is the only thing. The only weapon we have left now, Montel, is the tool we need to give these beautiful, creative young American children for them to be able to develop the skills to rethink, which is the only sure way to an environment, on a healthy environment of free thinking. We cannot use anger. We have to stop the name calling. We have to try to let people think before everybody thinks that opinion is a God-given gift. It's not. Have opinions on things you know something about and let people count on you whenever they think about such subject. I remember when you were pushing for the legalization of marijuana because of your own experience. And I think you came to Connecticut, I believe, one time and you ran into some. Yes,
I
if
feel all
anybody
over the
wants
country.
to,
Yeah.
I will go to you and say, I want to learn more about the benefits of, yes, because you have the credibility about it. But I'm not going to be there that everything I have to have an opinion. The opinion we have allowed to be loosely gifted to everyone is the reason we are in this situation. So I'm looking at the shift, not to embrace it, but to understand it, to acknowledge that its time has come.
Yeah, and that shift is right now. I mean, when I spoke in Connecticut back, this was probably 20 years ago, close to 20 years ago. I spoke before the Connecticut legislature on that. But isn't it
Yeah,
interesting how the shift has taken place? Because in the last 2 weeks, not only has the FDA, but the Health and Human Services have both individually written letters to the DEA demanding that cannabis be rescheduled because it's
yes,
not the nefarious drug that they thought it was. It does have
correct.
medical benefits. And even so much so that even yesterday, the President of the United States issued a blanket pardon to all those who have been convicted of a cannabis crime on federal
Excellent.
property, except for those who were trafficking. So,
And I remember that the only reason you did it so effectively back then, I can remember still, is that you understood it. And so when you went to the capital, without anger, you were able to convince many people. However, change takes, you said 20 years ago, but
it's 20
finally
years.
it's here, and you are still alive. And many
Yeah.
people would owe thanks to you for now they can profit freely and not be afraid of something. And that is what I'm saying, that we have to look at this also as its time has come. We must look at it that way. We must do what this country has always done. Look, there was a time in the 60s, we had a hippie movement. Oh, beautiful. Their mission statement, unbelievable. Okay. And then there was a room for them. People embraced them. They understood it. And we thought, whoa, we are all going to be hippies. No. And then slowly, its time came and went. Then we had the peace movement after the war, and it was massive. Buttons on shirts, and afro hair and everything. And then we look at it and we're like, whoa. And its time came and it went away. And then Woodstock changed everything. This is the country, eccentric and ever perplexing. That is the American ability to be able to change slowly. And many things have happened. And because in those days, we're not distracted so much by technology, social media, where opinions are 1,000 for a dime, and everybody is confused at the traffic light of confusion here and there. The philosophies are flowing everywhere. Because back in those days, there was nothing. I was a better student because I didn't have any distraction. I had only one channel television, black and white. What am I going to look at? So my books became what I have to go to, not because I like it, because you have nothing else to do. Today, I feel sorry and I respect any kid who is 20 years old. The distractions alone they have to live with and make decisions is massive. But the time has come. Technology played a part in this shift and is going too quick than anything we've known. I remember the time of fax machine before typewriter or typewriter before fax. It took a long time. We were still selling, oh my God. And then came record, and then came 8-track, then came cassette, then came CD. We were like, oh, we are royal. But the gap in between allows you to at least embrace one, enjoy it, have memories about it before the next one. Today, every morning you wake up. Today, I'm an illiterate compared to a 20-year-old. I can't keep up. So the
And you're
stress
right.
level
Yeah, and technology is moving exponentially now.
exponentially.
Yeah.
So it will make the stress level will go up because you're trying to catch up with everything. Everything is changing and you have to learn new things to be able to survive. And when the stress level goes up, the masses don't have room for critical thinking, analytical thinking, or even have a conversation with you and I this way. And we got to recognize that, yes, we ushered in Silicon Valley and we celebrated it and we loved it. And now this is what it has given us.
But the
That
cat
is,
is out, but the cat is out the bag, and it's not going back in.
oh no, you can't put it back in. That is going backwards.
Yeah.
We just have to allow the cat to roam freely while we build fences for it not to go too far. And I'm saying, and I repeat, the recognition of it, the acknowledgement that no, this time was bound to come. It came for other countries, the UK, they had a shift. It came for France, they had a shift. It came for Russia, they had a shift. China, you name it, they all went through
The
it.
shifts are just beginning correctly, and all the ones that you just stated. Go
Yes,
back and take a look at what's going on now in China, because now for the first time, I shouldn't say for the first time, but people are getting their voice, and people are
yes.
trying to
You
exercise their
see?
voice.
So this is the
Right.
second time China is going to go through a shift,
Yeah.
okay? They
China,
went through the shift of the
China's getting ready to go through what will be, I believe, an example of what America should look forward to. China's going to
That's
go
right.
through a major cultural shift, and right behind China, Russia will go along with another cultural shift. And Russians have always been in a different cultural mindset than I
That's
believe the
correct.
rest of the world. Yeah,
That's correct. Yes. And if you told somebody not long ago that, oh no, the English Empire is going to go down, they say, are you crazy? Or the Roman Empire is going to go down, or even Japan is going to go, is going to be a bully to Philippines and Koreans, and are you crazy? But no, they all had their moment. America, 200 something years or so, it has come to that moment. The only problem for America is that it was built in a time where technology was sped up
right.
and became the home of that technology. I think 60% of it.
Huh?
And so, because of that, MySpace lasted only what? I think 6 years, and then came Facebook and wiped it out of the. Skype lasted only, I think, 6 years, and then came WhatsApp. So, yes, this country, which is very, very, very technologically innovative, happened to be the first to take the bullet. And so, the shift is going to be faster here than every place else. However, this country has a way of setting the ripple across borders. And so we have to begin to tell our young ones, as I said yesterday at the workshop I held, look, anger will destroy you. You're angry because you don't understand what you heard. It's fine. Learn to give yourself a pause, and which is learn how to put a question to the answer.
Absolutely.
And then when that happens and you don't have the answer, it gives you a pause. And whoever gives himself a pause is never going to be angry until the other person gives you the answer. So learn. I'm teaching them now how to question the answers. And you said it from the beginning, as if you and I had a conversation, is that we have to give our young ones the tools for them to be able to question existing wisdoms and answers and conclusions that has been seen. So the Rethink project is helping young kids, and I want to do more of these conversations and remain in the middle and set an example for my kids.
And if people wanted to get a hold of you and find out more information, where would they go? What are your give me your stats and stuff?
Yes, we are about to launch the Zanu, the Rethink project Rethink pretty soon. But anybody who wants to get hold of me quick by phone will be fastest for now is 203 612 My team here is now putting up. I think we will be launching by the middle of March so that people can have access to the Zanu project Rethink.
Gotcha. Zanu Project Rethink. So I hope they'll be looking forward to it. Once you launch, make sure you come back. Let's talk about it a little bit more so we can chop it up a bit more at a future date, okay?
Montel, you got a fan here all the time. I've
That's good,
always
my friend.
admired you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for the challenging conversation. It's a good one, and I hope people will reach out to you with your phone number. And, I wish you luck with your new project.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, sir. You take care of yourself. You be well, and you keep tuning in to Free Thinking with Montel. Thanks for joining me on Free Thinking with Montel. Please make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell to be notified when new episodes post each week. We'd love to hear feedback, so please send us your comments.